ports. Truckers have within 1 week raised the cost to move a container from the Tin Can Island port in Lagos to any other part of the city by about 50%. From 1.2 million to 1.8 million naira. This Day newspaper had exclusively reported that last week haulage costs from Tin Can to any other part of Lagos had risen by more than 1,000%, from 100,000 to 1.2 million. Barely a year ago, the cost of trucking from the Tin Can port was about 300,000 naira. Joining us to discuss these stories is Arise business analyst Chika. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of the fall in NPLs with regards to the credits that's been put out, total credit to the private sector?
Okay, in anticipation that credits may go bad, especially during the COVID period, most central banks in the world, offered a scheme of forbearance to the banks in each country, and Nigeria was not left out. Do recall that one of the key elements of the IFRS 9 was summarily determine the provisions for each bank, and then how the provisions will be determined. All of them will include the environmental and economic factors in each country. And based on COVID, therefore, NPL would have gone very high. But because of the forbearance given by central banks of each country, including Nigeria, that affected the NPLs, and borrowers therefore were, given the leeway to extend the maturities of their loans in one instance, and even some of them got, reduced interest rates, and that helped to reduce the NPLs. If that had not happened, NPLs would have gone higher.
Thank you for that, Chika. I want to look at electronic payments. I believe, as far as the third quarter is concerned, we saw about, in value, 319 trillion naira worth of electronic payments, about 2.7 billion transactions. I think there was also information on checks. Checks amounted to about 3.8 trillion naira. But, Chika, I want to ask you something about electronic record keeping. So I spoke to some people who said they're actually afraid of using text message alerts to update them on their balance in the account because of the fear of either kidnapping or armed robbery, not wanting those assailants to see how much they have in their bank, which is why they're choosing other methods of record keeping by checks. What do you make of that with respect to insecurity in the country?
First of all, yes, checks are becoming a dying breed in the country now. And most people are reverting to alternative channels. And as we've seen, the figures for electronic payments has increased. Yes. Not surprising, though, that during the COVID period, people didn't go to the banks. Yes. And, what happened was that people were using alternative channels. Concurrently, do recall when we were analyzing the figures of MTN and Airtel. Yes. Because also that the digital data income has also increased. Yes. Alluding to the fact that people were using a lot of electronic channels. So when you're filling your form in the account opening package or trying to open your digital account, they give you the option. Do you want it by email, the information, the alerts, or do you want it by text, or you don't want it at all? And special circumstances in Nigeria, as you would have known during part of the things during the NSAS riots or protests, was the fact that a lot of the people were stopping Nigerian citizens, especially the youths, and then looking through their account to see their balances, and then taking to the ATMs to go and take money from those accounts. So yes, and even armed robbers and so on and so forth, if they stop you, they'll check your accounts, and because easily you're just a ripe meat, if they just look through your phone and see those balances, and then so you cannot deny that you don't have money. So the first line of defense is gone. So I can understand why a lot of Nigerians were opting out of the issue of text as a means of reducing, accepting seeing their alerts or balances.
Thank you for that, Chika. Okay, to the private sector figures now, I think it was 19.87 trillion total. Oil and gas, Chika, I want to talk about that. Oil and gas got 3.74 trillion. I think it was one of the highest allocations along with manufacturing. But, Chika, we've talked about oil and gas a lot. What do you make of the continued dominance, exports, forex earnings, credits? The oil and gas sector just continues to...
Not surprising. But I mean, I keep saying that one of the issues in Nigeria is the fact that this oil and gas we're talking about contribute less than 10% to our GDP.
Yes.
But as you already said, revenue base, more than 60-70% directly and indirectly. Export earnings depending on how you look at it, 85, 90% of our export earnings. So it's not surprising, therefore, that most of the lending will be channeled towards to that sector. And at the time in the Nigerian industry, there was massive concentration risk. And the last financial crisis we had in 2016, 2015 during the recession, a lot of banks, when the oil prices crashed, a lot of banks had to make aggressive provisions for that because a lot of projections were done on the oil price of $100 per barrel, and it cratered to like $30 or $30 per barrel. So it's not surprising because oil drives our economy directly and all the elements in the value chain. And so the lending is directed at that. I hear you, and I say it in this program that oil less than 10% of our GDP, the other sector of the economy contribute the nice 90. We need to flip it, through all the policies, mostly fiscal policies, to ensure that the other sector of the economy contribute. Why not reducing the contribution of oil, but at least accelerate the contribution of the other side of the economy to our overall growth of the economy?
Thank you for that, Chika. Manufacturing got 3.03 trillion naira allocation. I think it was second only to oil. Chika, with all the challenges that the manufacturing sector, you've talked about it on the show, where do you think that credit was allocated? Do you think it was allocated to overhead costs or paring down losses due to the lockdown effect?
You have heard me say right in this program. Yes. And when I analyze a lot of the oil manufacturing companies, I find a lot of them struggling with, gross margins of over 30%. And I tell you that those are very lean. Some of them are even, 20%, some of them 15% gross margins. And you look at what's causing the lean gross margins. It has to do with high operating costs. Yes. And it's even worse at the net margin level. Because some of them return very low net margins after they don't on the operating expenses. Again, because of operating costs. And you will find one of the major operating costs is what? Power. The other one has to do with logistics, moving their goods around the country, and the cost of moving the goods around the country. And the other cost is security. And so you will find that those elements are nearly man-made and can be either reduced or eliminated to make our manufacturing in Nigeria very competitive. And that's why a lot of times when we export to other countries, we can't compete. Right. Or when goods are smuggled into Nigeria, they cannot compete with the landed costs. The landed costs cannot compete with the manufactured goods, cost of manufactured goods in Nigeria because of the cost of operation.
Thank you for that, Chika. Bank staff strength. Chika, you're a banking sector man. I want to get your take on this. Bank staff strength increased by 1.4% to 95,888 for bank staff. I'm not sure how much of that is contract staff, but it seems like a low number, Chika. What do you make of that figure?
I mean, there are about 27, 28 licensed banks in Nigeria. Divide that and you can get the average. Yes. It's just that that's what they can take. A typical branch, maybe 30, 40 people in a typical branch, yes. Direct and indirect staff. And so if you spread that around the branches, you find that you see the banking sector has the profile, has the branding, and so has this big image, but again, you can see that it's not a massive employer of labor. Where you find the labor, as the economics records of Nigeria show, again, it's agricultural and service sectors.
Thank you for that, Chika. And finally, Lagos State, the geographical allocation, 19.46 trillion naira for the total geography allocation for credit. Lagos State got 15.13, 77% of, I guess maybe because all the corporations, most of them are headquartered in Lagos. But Chika, what chances are there of other states competing with Lagos to try to...
Well, I mean, is it some of the states, their governors abandon themselves, are living in Abuja now. Right. And some state governors were even saying something like, boss, you're not going to your state very often. He says, I'm going about 3 times in a month. Is that the kind of state that you expect investors to move their companies to? So it's not surprising, again, because of the concentration of the seaport, the airports in Lagos, and then because of logistic issues, it's not surprising that most of the companies are concentrated here. Ogun State is doing well. At the time, Port Harcourt was doing well. That was in Nnewi also. But the issue surrounding all those, remember, is power, logistics, and security. When we have all those together, there are a lot of manufacturing companies that have been setting up in Aba, and most of them will die because of the issue of power. And so power is a major element. When you have power and logistics and security, you can site factories really anywhere.
Fantastic. Only about a minute to go, Chika. Real quick, the port story, the haulage costs.
See, what's surprising to you? When we're analyzing the revenue of a typical truck, we'll say, okay, in a month, you're going to make, let's say, 1 million naira. That 1 million naira is assuming that each trip to the port, you make 250,000 naira. So on 4 trips, you make 1 million naira. So you make a trip, turn around maybe 5 days. You make another trip, turn around 5 days. So within a month, you make 4 trips. But what happens now? So you can aggregate and make your 1 million naira.
Right.
So what happens now? That one trip takes you what? 1 month.
Right.
So why are you surprised?
Right.
That one trip costs 1 million naira. So the owners of the trucks have to recover their revenue. In the sense that they can't, one trip, instead of making 4 trips, they can only make 1 trip now. And so they have to recover that cost because they have bank loans to pay and other expenses to cover.
Arise business analyst Chika Mbono, as always, thank you so much for your insights on these stories. We appreciate your time, sir. You're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News.